A very good evening and a warm welcome to our first edition of UBC News Tonight on this 11th day of July 2024. I'm Lauryn Masika Kazimoto. We do welcome you. Now we start off with our first headlining story this evening. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has today commissioned Spyro electric motorcycles during an event held at the National Leadership Institute, Chankwanzi. The delegation from Spyro was led by Mr. Odrek Rabogo, the chairperson of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development. We have the details.
An electric bike producing company in Africa recognized for its impact on sustainable transportation. Formerly known as AIM Auto Electric, the company has deployed over 15,000 electric bikes and facilitated more than 9 million battery swaps across countries like Benin, Kenya, Togo, Rwanda and Uganda. During the commissioning of the Spyro electronic motorbikes at Chankwanzi, President Museveni praised Spyro for the new technology. Museveni also emphasized Uganda's dedication to adopting environmentally friendly alternatives.
So, Minister Kaseja, I have already agreed with these people to give them tax-free for their motorbikes, which are electric. They are going to bring them here. I say no taxes. You just bring them. No taxes. They will tell you the details of this tax. They will bring and then make here. They will bring some and assemble. Then start assembling. They will bring for how many months?
18 months.
14 months. They want to import, test the market, and then start assembling here.
Ms. Rosa Malango, the chairperson of the Tumaini Africa Knowledge Center, informed the president that 500 electric bikes are already operational in Kampala, with 150 of them sold in the first week.
You got how many?
500, sir.
Oh, you have already brought some?
Yes, sir. They're in the country.
To make the bikes accessible for border riders, she noted that a payment plan in installments has been introduced.
Clearly, we are also working on bringing Matatu and the tuk-tuks, electric tuk-tuks. We expect by October we should have some first trials, and Q1 next year we should launch electric tuk-tuks across the country. And again, like we're doing with the bikes, we expect 30 to 40% reduction in the cost of ownership as we do that.
On the other hand, Spyro country head Gaurav Anand announced plans to partner with the Ugandan government to deploy over 140,000 electric two-wheelers and 3,000 charge and swap stations across the country by 2028. The event was also attended by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Matia Kasaija, and the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Ramadan Gobi. Dennis Igor for UBC News.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Museveni, has expressed gratitude for the partnership between the Saudi Fund for Development and Uganda. She particularly appreciated the financial support towards the establishment of 5 technical vocational education and training institutes in the country. The First Lady met the CEO of Saudi Fund for Development, Mr. Sultan Abdul Rahman Al Mashad, and his delegation that included the Ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Uganda, His Excellency Mohammed bin Khalid Faluda.
Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija, signed the MOU on behalf of the government of Uganda and witnessed by his permanent secretary, Mr. Ramadan Ngobi, while the CEO of Saudi Fund for Development, Mr. Sultan Abraham, signed on behalf of his institution and witnessed by the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Uganda, His Excellency Mohammed bin Khalid. The Saudi Fund for Development is a government institution that provides significant support in form of soft loans to finance development projects in developing countries. In Uganda, the Saudi Fund for Development has supported Uganda's efforts since 1976 and has provided financing of over $100 million to support implementation of various projects that include, among others, livestock and agriculture, business technical vocational education training, energy and health sectors. Mrs. Museveni in her remarks welcomed the CEO and his delegation that comprised the ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Uganda and more so to the country's state lodge in Chankwanzi district.
I wanted to say on behalf of our country, thank you. Thank you really for being partners to Uganda and to our education. And we would like to continue on this journey together with you, if possible.
The First Lady, however, implored Saudi Fund for Development not to look only at the collaboration on infrastructure development, but also take keen interest in establishing technical schools for training trainers in Uganda.
In the work of technical for the Ministry of Education, we have had one problem that has been outstanding really of trainers of trainers. We need to have trainers who are hands-on, who are technically qualified to come with us to train our own people who will train in the technical institute. So that's one of the areas we wanted to ask you whether you would be willing to consider or even consider taking on more technical institutes.
The ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Uganda, in his comment, responded in the affirmative.
Today reflects our continued development cooperation as we sign the MOU to allocate a grant for $4 million to provide the Saudi program for drilling and walls rural development areas. Your Excellency, it is our journey started more than 40 years ago, and we are continuing this journey together as a brotherhood that with the Saudi Fund for Development and the Minister of the Republic of Uganda.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Development expressed his gratitude to the Saudi Fund for Development for what he described as beneficial and cordial relationship that the Institute has had with Uganda. The Minister of State for Water and Environment, Honorable Beatrice Annual, pointed out that the signing of the MOU is a confirmation of the good brother relationship existing between the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Republic of Uganda. Reporting for UBC, Baguma William.
Now a little bit away from Uganda, the Kenyan President William Ruto has fired his entire cabinet apart from the foreign minister, bowing to pressure from nationwide protests that have created the biggest crisis of his two-year presidency. The youth-led protests against planned tax hikes started off peacefully but turned violent, killing at least 39 people in clashes with the police last month. We have the details.
Recent events that necessitated the withdrawal of the finance bill, which will require a review and reorganization of our budget and fiscal management, have brought us to an inflection point. Upon reflection, listening keenly to what the people of Kenya have said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of my cabinet and its achievements and challenges, I have today, in line with the powers given to me by Article 1521 and 1525B of the Constitution and Sections 12 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act, decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya, except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, and Diaspora Affairs, and of course, the Office of the Deputy President is not affected in any way. I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations and other Kenyans, both in public and private, with the aim of setting up a broad-based government that will assist me in accelerating and expediting the necessary, urgent, and irreversible implementation of the program that we have, including other radical measures and programs to deal with the burden of debt, to explore raising domestic resources and revenues.
Now back home, Uganda may have successfully foiled any more terror attacks after the Chadondo misery, but the threat lives to date. This underscores the need for more vigilance, including monitoring of porous borders, which wrong elements often use to cause disorder. This is why after 14 years of Chadondo Rugby Club and Ethiopian village restaurant attacks, there are many lessons learned. We have more.
In the sky, on the water, and on land, the fight against the Al-Shabaab militant group in Somalia is one that has come with heavy prices to pay. Families have been displaced, people have been injured, and some have unfortunately died. With its troops in the country for a peacekeeping mission, Uganda has had its share of the mayhem. The memories of 2010, July 11th twin attacks in Kampala remain fresh.
Actually, the one who detonated the Lugogo bomb was my neighbor. The bomb was next to my wall for a whole week before it was deployed in Lugogo. This individual had even proposed to the terrorists to hit me because I was the EPDF spokesman. The Somalis who were leading the operation said, we want a bigger number. Now, we are partly to blame as Ugandans. Because this young man was my neighbor, changed the character when the villagers were seeing in Najanankumbi. Because they revealed after he had been arrested that actually they saw him changing habits.
The reasoning by Al-Shabaab was that UPDF, a mother force to Uganda's troops in Somalia, was not welcome. This, the UPDF spokesperson refutes.
First of all, that was a lame excuse. 1998 we were not in Somalia, were we? Tanzania and Kenya were not in Somalia, but they hit them. So that was a lame excuse. Two, indeed they wanted us out of Somalia so they can keep growing because we had stopped their freedom of action where their base was.
Other than scaring Uganda, the attack instead re-energized the country. This explains why the troops are still there.
I may wish to remind your viewers that before UPDF captured Mogadishu, piracy was a problem on the Indian Ocean. Today it's no longer an issue. It's instead in the Red Sea. Why? And our philosophy was that the solution against piracy on the Indian Ocean laid on land in Mogadishu, because that was the safe haven for the pirates. So criminality enjoys freedom where there is no state authority. That was the whole intention of having. They thought by hitting us here, we indeed will run back. But we said now that you have done it, we are coming for you.
The country may not have been caught unaware, but efforts to foil Similar occurrences have been successful, and this is how it has been done.
So I'm very sure they regretted what they did, because they invited us. Because originally, our deployment in Somalia was a supportive mission for the Somali transitional federal government to take a foothold in Mogadishu, and then the political process would begin. Unfortunately, these fellows were controlling Bakara Market, they were controlling the city, they were controlling the airport. We had only managed to get a foothold at the airport. So when they hit us here, it was evident we needed to deny them that freedom of action, and succeeded.
African Union Mission to Somalia, AMISOM, has since transited to ATMIS, with the process of withdrawing troops ongoing. Uganda, which is part of the peace mission, is worried of Somalia losing the gains attained.
The drawdown should have been based on situation, not timelines. But the catch-22 is that you have a mission financed by outsiders, the European Union. And so the financiers have their own issues in Europe. The Ukraine war and the financial challenges individual countries, individual member states of the EU are facing. And so they think they should save on expenditure by stopping this expenditure in Somalia.
For now, the fight against terror continues in Uganda, with the focus not just confined to Al-Shabaab, but others, including ADF.
We are at the forefront, we are on the front line, if I may use that word, because we are in a region that you cannot afford to put your hands under your head and sleep. And so it's critical that we remain as vigilant as ever. We remain with constant coordination and collaboration with our partners in the region and internationally, because terrorism is still around in the continent.
Terrorism remains an international security threat, which only joint efforts can counter. Henry Okrut, UBC.
The Uganda Broadcasting Corporation management has expressed a need for finances to ensure that land vested to the corporation is secured with valid titles, emphasizing that ownership must be clear. The managing director, Winston Agaba, explained to the members of parliament that UBC land is being threatened by land grabbers, with some people claiming that UBC land belongs to the community.
This Thursday, UBC management appeared before the Parliamentary Committee of Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises (COSASE) to answer queries in the Auditor General's report 2022-2023. The Auditor General raised a query regarding the non-revaluation of assets that had exhausted their useful life. The Deputy Managing Director, Maurice Mugisha, presented an updated asset register from 2023, explaining that they provided both for comparison purposes.
Is that the vesting order was for you to do the comparison. As at 2006 and as at 2023, based on the asset register we have presented to the House, is that it gives you a detail of each of the pieces of land in this country, because we have land across the country, and the status. We would, and it's with your guidance as members, that some of these can be for the information of members of parliament and not a public document, because matters of land are very critical. And you're aware we have many mafias, land mafias in this country.
Managing Director Winston Agaba informed the committee that the board's first assignment was to tour the country to ascertain the status of UBC assets. Winston Agaba requested the committee to give the board and management more time, as some properties are not titled. He emphasized that valuing and securing the land requires finances.
About land grabbers, I mean, we've just seen what has happened in the wetlands. People have settled there. Likewise, some people are claiming that UBC land that was vested from Radio Uganda and UTV either belongs to communities or even some government institutions, unfortunately. National Forest Authority being one of them, UTV Radio Uganda was there well before National Forest Authority. So we are trying to amicably sort out some of those issues. A lot of money. First of all, it's not only just securing it, but also valuing the land. How much is the value currently? It's an annual exercise that must be carried out. So you are talking in billions of shillings. But we believe that even a journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. As a board and management, we have given ourselves a task of making sure that every financial year, at least we make sure that 2, 3, 4 titles are processed.
Chairman of the UBC board, Dr. James Tumusime, noted that while the land was surveyed, issues remain unresolved.
In that you have land which was vested, some of it was vested when it already had encroachers. Others, you had people who went behind and got titles on the land even when they were not supposed to get that land. So we have identified all those problems and we are addressing them. We are addressing them through the courts.
A member of the committee, Yusuf Nsibambi, proposed that the documents submitted should include a specific report detailing certificates, encroachers and court cases. Some MPs expressed concerns that the information provided might expose UBC land to potential land grabbers.
We see what can we prevent. That matrix we have